This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome back to the Warner Brothers podcast. I'm Kyle, joined by Tim Gray and joined by Brandon Petty. What's up, fellas? Definitely a much lighter version of the Warner Brothers podcast today. We got a light skin with two white people, so no Keenan on this Tuesday edition of the Warner Brothers podcast. But listen, we're gonna get right to it. You see, Brandon's all gatored out. Florida Gators coming off fresh off winning the national championship for the NCAA men's basketball, and Tim, who had Houston in his bracket, I should say, feeling the defeat. I mean, I don't think it affects him too much, but I'm very interested. As someone who did not watch the game live, I'm very interested to hear both of your perspectives from last night. So we will start with the winning side. Brandon Petty, how you feeling? And let me ask you, I'm going to ask Brandon first, and I'll ask Tim the same question. 5 minutes left. Houston's up 3. I believe about 5:15 left. I think it's 58-55 Houston. At this point, Florida has not led pretty much at all, probably aside from 30 seconds at the beginning of the game. And you're down 12 at half. Yeah. We've got the group text messages to show. I mean, Brandon was just like going off on the refs at halftime. And I'm like, this is very typical Brandon Petty behavior right here, where he's just flying off the edge. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, it's not. I mean, 12 points in college, it can be a lot depending on how the defense is. Again, I'm not watching the game, but I'm like, it's a 3 to 4 possession game. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be too bad. But Brandon was kind of flying off the handle. But you guys clawed 3 points with 5 minutes left. How are you feeling at that point? 58-55, 5 minutes left. And then you guys go to the line.
At that point, like, I really going into halftime, I kind of felt like, I felt like we were in a good position. We had 9 turnovers at halftime, which was kind of typical for like all of our tournament games, minus the Norfolk State game. We got down by 12, and that's when I kind of start going off on my little tangent in the group chat. Mainly because how the game was called. I want to say there was 4 total fouls in the first half, and we had, I think, 4 or 5 within 2 minutes. And it was just like the refs weren't involved in the first half, and then in the second half they made it well known. So anyway, we cut it down to 3. We're going back and forth. We hadn't led at that point since I want to say 4 or 5 minutes into the game. We had an 8-6 lead. Lost that. They tied it 8-8, and then from there we never had the lead. I think we had the lead for 17 seconds at that point. I'm worried at this point. Like I really am. Walter Clayton has gotten going a little bit to that point, but like points were at a premium at that point. Like both teams were playing lockdown defense, and I'm like, who's going to be that guy? I'm thinking in my head at that point in time, I'm like, it's going to come down to a last second shot. I was thinking for us. Like, I genuinely thought that, like, the ball's going to be in Walter Clayton's hands, last possession, shot clock turned off, and he's got to go for the win. I honestly probably lost about 5 years of my life watching that game.
Been there.
Like, honestly. And I really, like, woke up this morning. I went through the last 5 minutes probably about 8 to 10 times today on YouTube, everything. Like, because I'm still trying to process it. It doesn't feel real to me. Like, just like the nature of it, because like, I really honestly, like, I had very little faith that we could come back because of the fact that it was Houston. Like, against Auburn, like against Maryland, Texas Tech, teams that, I thought that we were more talented than that. I'm like, okay, we can come back. Like, we were kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. This game, it felt way different because we could not get a shot to fall. Like, I mean, they were running in and out. And I just, like, I never felt super confident until, and even really like at that 2-3 minute mark, like I really wasn't super confident either. Like I'm like, damn, like this, I really felt like it was a 50-50 game at that point where like it could go either way, but like I just had a gut wrenching feeling. I'm like, damn, like this feels like a game that like Houston's gonna win. Like I was thinking back to the Houston Duke game and just like how Houston kind of closed that one out. I'm like, I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, are they gonna do the same thing to us? Like, what's gonna happen with that? And thankfully, that's not what happened.
So from what I heard from y'all talking about it, like leading up to the tournament and even after that first weekend, um, Florida wasn't a team a lot of people seem to pick, right? Even coming out of the SEC, I mean, like this wasn't a team. I mean, how did you feel? Did you feel this was a Sweet 16 team going into the tournament? Did you feel like it was a Final Four team? What did you?
I thought honestly,
No, go ahead. I
go
was
ahead,
going to say,
my
what
bad.
were your expectations of this team in general?
Oh, so it kind of changed throughout the year. So beginning of the year, obviously with us losing last year to Colorado in the first round, I really didn't know kind of how this team would look. I loved Elijah Martin, his addition. I loved Ruben Chinyulu, and everybody else that we brought in, and obviously the guys we had coming back. I thought beginning of the season, I'm like, if we can tweak the defense a little bit, I was kind of hoping for a Sweet 16 berth. Um, we played North Carolina in the Jumpman Invitational. At that time, North Carolina was still highly ranked. Um, Ended up not being as great as a win as it initially looked. Um, at that point, I'm like, all right, we got some fight in us. We beat Tennessee by 30. At that point, I'm like, all right, this team has some real potential. We lose to Kentucky at Rupp when Kentucky was at full strength. Um, we end up losing to Georgia. We lose to Missouri, but we beat Alabama. We beat Auburn. We beat Texas A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, and these were all ranked teams. Um, so going into the SEC tournament, I really thought I'm like, I think we can win the tournament, and I'm expecting at this point, like, I'm thinking
Okay.
it's Final Four bust, like because it's a tough. My viewpoint is as a top 14 at that point in the AP poll, like that's my expectation. If you're, you know, if we were 8 to 10, like I'd be fine with the Elite Eight. So I'm like, all right, Final Four, and then we go on that run through the SEC tournament where we're just kind of just honestly just blowing people out. We beat Missouri again. We beat Alabama, and I'm like, wow, like we really might do it. Um, then we get to the tournament, and that's when things kind of went south. Norfolk State, we kind of played a little sloppy to end the first half. We still won by like 30 or 40, like whatever. It's Norfolk State. The UConn game, I was nervous, especially Dan Hurley's there. Like they had a ton of talent. It was really just a bad year for them. Um, After we squeaked out that game, I told everybody that we were at the watch party with, I told everybody, I said, this is our year. Because the way I think it was George Mason. It was either oh 06, it was either 05, oh 06 or 06, oh 07. It might have been the year that we played Ohio State. We had a game, I want to say in the round of 32 to a lower seed. And we ended up squeaking out that game. And I don't know why. I just kind of put two and two together in my head, and I'm like, damn, like this kind of really feels like our year. And at that point, I'm like, we have enough to go get a national title. Like we have shooting, we have depth. Like we're the deepest team in the nation. I think we had the best point guard in the nation, and probably the second best player in the nation behind Cooper Flagg with Walter Clayton. Elijah Martin is a stud. Will Richard is a stud. Denzel Aberdeen off the bench. So as the year went on, my expectations kind of grew. And once we got to the Maryland game against Derek Queen and the Crab Five, as people call them, I really like at that point. I was like, it's national title. Like I'm expecting a national title. At
Sure.
least get there. Like because I'm thinking we're playing Duke. I'm like, I don't know if we'll beat Duke. Like but we got to see. We got to see if we even make it. But like I said, it kind of went from Sweet 16 to kind of all right, we're a Final Four team to kind of
Got a
like,
real shot at
no,
this.
holy shit, we can win a national title this
For
year.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Now, Tim, you had Houston winning. Really, if anything, it's bragging rights for you. You're not really emotionally invested in Houston, but I mean, you obviously want them to win. Um, they're, I don't want to say dominating the game, but in control of the game. And same question to you. You're up three. It's kind of a teeter totter game at that point. Um, how do you feel up three with 5 minutes to go? Florida then cuts it to one at the line, and from what I see, reviewing the game, from what I see, it's a lot of foul shots from 5 minutes on. It's a lot of physicalness. It's a lot of guys being tight, what you expect. I mean, these are young players. In this case, Houston's more the vet team, is my understanding, which is, I believe, why you picked them in the first place, Tim, right? This team has Final Four experience. Um, they got Calvin Sampson as a coach, who's known as a really good coach, maybe even a lead coach. Um, how are you feeling? Up three, then up one. It's kind of going back and forth. Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling like Florida has a handle on it? Or are you feeling like, hey, my guys are the vet team right here. We're going to pull this out? Really?
Not good. I'll tell you that. You can go back beyond 5 minutes when
Mm.
they had an 8-point lead. And at that point, I said, this is not going to last. Every drive they went up the court, they could not get an open shot. It was just really frustrating to watch from, like I said, that 8-point lead point on. It just seemed like Florida knew exactly what to do, but Houston did not. It was just really frustrating. They'd take bad shots. We saw a few deep threes for no reason with like 20 seconds on the shot clock. Hate that. We would see them drive to the basket and not even get a shot up and just turn it over. That was frustrating to watch. Everything about it. We saw like two good plays in the final 5 minutes from Houston offensively. It just seemed to be, from that point on, just Florida's game. Clayton hitting a couple big threes. It was really tough to watch. From that 8-point lead, I literally said, I was like, this isn't going to hold. Like, I don't have any confidence
Very
in it at
interesting.
that point. It was just, yeah.
Okay. Well, so how did we feel about the game overall then? Like, was it obviously in any event, whether it's, I don't want to say NFL, but NBA certainly. If you're in a game seven or a game five where it's 2-2 and you're really trying to go up one going into that game six, all these games, specifically the second half and more specifically the latter half of the fourth quarter, they get tight, they get physical. Was it enjoyable to watch? Did you feel like the refs? I mean, I know Brandon said like the refs definitely took control of the game early. Did you feel like it was too ref centric? Did you feel like it was too whistle centric? I know in that 5 minutes there was a couple reviews really slowed the game down. That's like 17 to 20 minutes of total game time real time for 5 minutes of game time. How did it feel in the moment? I'm sure that only adds to the intensity. But did you feel like the reviews and the refs detracted from this game in any way? We'll start with Tim.
Definitely a little bit. I wouldn't say that they were, like, towards the end of the game, most of the fouls that were called were fouls. They kind of reviewed them pretty quickly, and a lot of the times there was a lot of contact. So I can't say that the fouls called in that last 5 minutes were any bad fouls, but there were multiple, like you said, reviews of out of bounds balls that they wanted to go and look at. That we saw the replay 15 times before the ref was even looking at it. And
Oh,
that
man.
is very frustrating to see. We see that in the NFL, but the NFL has sped it up to where by the time we know that it's one way, New York has already buzzed in and said, hey, don't even take a look at this. We know what it is. Do this. That was frustrating to see, that we would literally see it 10 to 15 replays where it's like, okay, yeah, that was clearly off his knee. That's Florida's ball going the other way. And then we'd get to the mid-court, and the ref is just barely getting to the table. And I'm like, what the hell? We could have been, playing this game. You're pretty much giving them a timeout, which isn't a terrible thing, but like it slows the game way down. So I did not like the replays towards the end. They could have sped those up quite a bit.
Yeah, it was honestly like very agonizing for me.
Sure.
Like I said, the first half was like I said, the first half was very clean. The second half, like we had two technicals. I think both of them came in the second half. One of them, our center Chinyelu, they caught him for a shooting foul. Takes the ball and he spikes it, and then there's like a it had to have been probably about a minute or two long kind of replay process, whatever. Um, and I was like, okay, like it's there's nothing to see here. Like it's pretty clear. There was another point in the game when it kind of got down to crunch time. Joseph Tuggle went to go for an offensive rebound, and you can clearly see it. Like he loses control of the ball, and he's the last person to touch it. His hands kind of like this, and the ball's just shooting right out of bounds. So they go through, they review it, and that takes a couple minutes. And then obviously the Emmanuel Sharp Will Richard play where Richard swipes it. It's clear as day, like Timmy was saying, off of his knee, and they go through and they're like, oh, let's review this for another couple of minutes. Like Timmy said, they reviewed a couple of baseline calls. Just really kind of, like I said earlier, just really getting involved. And to me, like, I think that's what made it just like even more stressful for me, because I'm like, all right, like this is delaying the result. Like every time they stop this game, like my anxiety is just going higher and higher.
For sure.
Like, and we're all sitting there. We've got multiple people that we're watching the game with, and we're all diehard Gator fans. And we're just like, oh my God, like, can we get this damn game over with? Like, we want to get us to the last minute at least, and thankfully the last minute and a half, they kind of let everything play through. But Jesus Christ, it was, oh my God. I'm sitting there like biting my nails, like I was pacing back and forth at one point, and I'd never I really only ever do that when Florida plays. And I'm pacing, I'm doing laps around my dad's game room, around his pool table. I'm walking behind his bar, like I'm walking
it's serious
outside.
when you're doing laps. When you're doing walking laps, it's serious.
Yeah, like like I said, it definitely probably took 5 years off my life. Like, wouldn't be surprised if my blood pressure was through the roof.
For sure. Tim, what you described with like the ref stopping the game and the reviews, like exactly what you said. Again, I don't watch college nearly as much anymore, but in the NBA, I mean, I've talked about this in the pod a million times over. It's the same exact thing where, and Brandon knows this, like there'll be times, it could be 8 minutes left in the second quarter, third quarter, but especially at the end of the game, there's these times where you can see within the first 2 or 3 replays, okay, it's off the Lakers here, it's off the Knicks here. We see it, and the refs will watch it another 8 to 15 times, and you're like, who the fuck is actually like paying these guys? Like, why are these guys in the league? Like you said, Tim, in the NFL, it's not nearly the issue it once was, and honestly, back in the day, like even if it was like a long, maybe let's say 2 5-minute review, right? Anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, it added to the drama. Right? I mean, there's not really much on the sideline that a football team on either side of the ball can adjust to where you're really going to gain an advantage, right? One that sticks out to me is the Dez caught it play, right? The Cowboys at Packers. That was a long review. Might have even exceeded 5 minutes, but that was one where you needed to break it down. Is this a football move? And it only added to the drama, and you'll still get that in the NFL to this day if the play's close enough. But in the NBA and in college, like you guys said, these teams, and I believe each league has a rule, whether it's the NCAA and the NBA, like after 4 minutes in the NCAA and after 2 minutes in the NBA, you lose a timeout. It almost doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter if you're going to get probably up to 2 timeouts worth of a review. Because there's times where, yes, it's a challenge on the coach's part, but there's a lot of times where it's 2 guys going for the ball, and you can't really decipher who it's off. And sometimes, like I said, you can immediately decipher who it is off, and it still takes these refs, no matter what, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, maybe even 8 minutes of real life time, and it's agonizing, and it takes guys out of rhythm. And yeah, I have heard it's a problem in college basketball the same way it is in the NBA, and they really do have to do something about it in both leagues, because it does not affect the NFL the same way it does basketball, where you're in constant motion. And I've heard in the MLB even, it's kind of the same issue. I wouldn't be as familiar, but I've heard the same thing there. Fellas, any final thoughts on the national championship game?
Just wanted to throw out a couple of nuggets here. Just as me being a Gator fan, just a couple of things that I wanted to point out. Will Richard, I know the last time we talked, I said that either him or Elijah Martin had to have a big game. Will Richard stepped up. Will Richard is the only reason that we were even in the game in the first half. We had 28 points at the half. He had 14 of those points off threes. Because Clayton had no points for 30. It was about 30-ish, about 25 to 30 minutes of the game. Had no points at all. I think was 0 for 6 at one point. Will Richard had 18 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 assists. Also had a block, big block in crunch time. There was a 2-minute sequence at the end of that game where it was a Will Richard block at the top of the key. Houston gets the ball back. Thomas Houck blocks Cryer driving into the paint. And then you have the Will Richard steal. And what was interesting is the roles were kind of reversed in the championship game versus in the Final Four. And what I mean by that is Houston was beating Duke, I think 6-4 at one point. Didn't have a lead until with 33 seconds left or whatever it was. Same thing with Florida. Florida was up 8-6, didn't have a lead again until like a minute left in the game. We led for a total time of 64 seconds. Houston led for the rest of the game.
It's heartbreak.
And we came out on top. Finished the season 36-4. We had 9 wins against AP teams ranked in the top 10 in the final AP poll. We beat Houston. They finished number 2. Auburn finished number 4. We beat them 2 times. Tennessee finished 5. We beat them 2 times. Bama finished number 6. We beat them 2 times. We beat number 8 Texas Tech, number 9 Maryland, number 18 Ole Miss, number 19 Texas A&M, and number 20 Arkansas. 9-1 against those teams, or in the top 10 at least. Our only loss was Tennessee at Knoxville. And Todd Golden is the youngest head coach to win a NCAA national championship since Jimmy V with NC State.
Tim, any final? That's crazy.
39 years
shy
old.
of 40. Tim, any final thoughts on the Houston Cougars and their loss? Actually, Brandon, let me ask you this quick question before we go to Tim. Repeat chances or even Final Four chances for next year. How you feeling? Give me a number percentage on that.
I'm going to say right now less than 50. I love what we have coming back. We have Condon, we have Houck. If they do come back, some of these guys do have a little bit of draft stock to them. Condon, Houck, Denzel Aberdeen, Ruben Chinyulu, Micah Hanlockton, Isaiah Brown. We've got 2 top 30 recruits coming in with Cornelius Ingram's son, CJ Ingram Jr. Cornelius Ingram was a tight end on the Florida football national championship team. I think it was either 06 or I think it was 06. And then Alex Lloyd. Depends on what we do in the forward. If we go out and get, I think we need a combo guard, another big for depth, and then maybe another point guard. I think here in about 2 or 3 weeks, it could change. But I think if we get those pieces, I like what we have right now. I think we need a couple more weeks.
Follow up to that, more satisfying victory for you, this one or the back-to-back with the Joe Kim, Al Horford, Corey Brewer? Was it Torian Green? Was Torian Green the 4th guy in that? There we go.
Torian Green was the point guard.
So what was more satisfying, the back-to-back or this kind of unexpected, late-blooming type of run?
So I was actually thinking about this today, and it's going to be kind of a long-winded answer, so I do apologize. I was respectively 9 and 10 years old whenever we won those championships. Being young at the time, didn't really appreciate them. You don't really think of stuff like that when you're at that age. It was cool. I was a Gator fan. I could say, my team won all these championships, whatever. And then I realized, damn, we had an 18-year gap. And, if you would have asked people at that time, hey, how many championships do you think UF is going to win in the next 10 years? They probably would have said, hey, 2,
especially with
3,
Billy Donovan as coach.
Considering the run. Yeah, and the run that we just went on, all the talent we had. For me, it's definitely this one. Because the fact that now that I'm much older, I can really appreciate it. And really just too, my fandom as a Gator in general has grown so much. My best friend Ty, shout out to him, was actually humoring me a little bit today. He told me, he's like, you're literally a psycho. He's like, you're literally a psychopath when it comes to the Gators. He's like, you know everything, which I do. Like I know way too much. Like it's like 90% of my memory bank. Like it's ridiculous. But definitely this one because I plan to definitely cherish it and kind of because it could be another 20 years before we get another one. And I loved it because this is one of my favorite teams that we've ever had. The trio of guards that we had that are all seniors, I'm glad that they got to go out on top. And to me, it was just perfect. It honestly, like I said, it's still surreal right now. Like it's still, I think Saturday when we're down in Gainesville for the celebration for it, I think that's when it'll kind of reality will kind of set in. But it would definitely be this one for sure because I can appreciate it a lot.
Most definitely. Tim, final thoughts, and what are your expectations for Houston as a casual fan or as a casual observer? Do you feel like they can make a run next year? I mean, this is a team that has had deep tournament runs in recent memory. What's your feelings for the Houston Cougars going forward?
I think Houston will be fine. They seem to be a very good team every single year, so I don't doubt that they'll definitely be a tournament team next year. They'll be a high seed. I don't have any doubt for that. I don't know about national championship run next year. It's pretty hard. You might have that hangover, but I do think they'll definitely be a good tournament team next year for sure. Couple final thoughts. One, Florida, I believe, is the first team ever to defeat the defending national champions and go on to win the national championship in the same year. Every single team that had beat the defending national championships had lost. So I wasn't sure if that stat was in the last 30 times or if it was an all-time thing. Pretty sure it was an all-time thing. So that's a pretty big deal. Now, I do want to get your guys' opinion on the very final play, the last shot of the game. What did you guys think of that? So my opinion on that was I thought he could have drawn a foul there. I thought he was pretty close up in his face. I thought if you just put up a shot, you're probably getting a call. It seems like he kind of bailed out of it and, it kind of cost him the game there. What do you guys think?
As someone who caught that play last night, right, without any context, and then just earlier catching up on the final 5 minutes, like Brandon said, Florida blocked a three from the top of the key. Was that the same two players involved, or at least the same shot blockee involved?
No, so it was Will Richard, and then I think it was Emmanuel Sharp. I think it was the same. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Emmanuel Sharp.
Okay. I think it was two different.
Was it?
I mean, so maybe that was in the back of his head shooting it, even if it is a different player. It was a great contest. I mean, none of us have played elite levels of basketball, but just playing basketball, yeah, there's times, of course, where you go to shoot, and even if like it's a shot you normally can get off, like there's certain times where it's like, damn, this guy, it seems like he's going to swat my shit, even if you really could get it off. You know what I mean? It really does seem like he could have got that shot off over his fingertips, with high enough arc, and then at least you're putting it in play for a rebound, right? Especially with a three that deep, you really do have a chance, an offensive rebound there, a better chance even, honestly. But like you said, the way he closed out, he kind of flew out there. Yeah, he probably could have leaned in and got contact there, and you're certainly getting that call. You're almost certainly getting that call. I mean, you never know with college refs, but I mean, that much contact that he probably would have drawn there. But it's one of those things, man, where it just seems like he froze in the moment. I don't want to call him a choker because that's not what I mean by freezing. It's just one of those things where a guy closed out, was a good contest, and you're like, shit, I had the rhythm. I'm going to drop it. Now, the interesting thing is he could have instantly put his hand on it, got a double dribble, and now you're looking at like 6 seconds on the clock in a one-possession game where you still technically have life and still could force a dangerous inbound. I know they almost forced a turnover in the backcourt probably, 20 seconds before that. So it's one of those things where he's probably going to kick himself for, yeah, be a little extreme if he killed himself. But it's one of those things where he's going to he's going to wish like, man, I could have even touched the ball there and that would have preserved life. Or even if I would have just chucked it up to the backboard, we got a chance at it. So it's just one of those things that was a split decision thing that he's definitely going to be kicking himself for looking back. Because, yeah, maybe he gets it off. Maybe he gets it blocked. Maybe they get a chance at a rebound. Again, maybe even worst case, you do pick up the double dribble, but you got time to at least cause a turnover, or you at least got time to send him to the line. Who knows after that, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, that whole possession was interesting. LJ Cryer kind of took a little while to bring it up the floor, and then they ran a little two-man game with Milo Suzon. And our defense, like, we beat Houston at their own game by using
Physical
stifling
defense, too.
defense. Yeah, extremely physical, and a lot of people slept on us for that because all year we were a top 10 defensive team. But anyway, so they had 19.7 seconds left. I'm thinking they're going to go for a two because you get a two, you at least send it to overtime. And you throw it into Jawan Roberts, like you could probably get a more favorable shot. So while Cryer and Uzan are doing their two-man game, I'm watching Sharp, who's down in the corner, at the bottom corner, and I see Clayton on him. And it looks like for a second that I think it's Uzan. Uzan's kind of rotating to the opposite, to the top corner. And Elijah Martin is kind of late to rotate. So I think Walter Clayton, in his mind, is thinking he's getting the ball. Well, they kick it to Emmanuel Sharp, and that's when Clayton just closes. I mean, it looks like he got shot out of a cannon, how quick he was. And I'm like, oh, shit, they're going to shoot a three. And he contests it, and I'm like, well, please don't hit him. And then on the replay, like, the way he contested, he was completely to his left-hand side. I feel like he would have had to have kind of changed his kind of shot form a little bit and leaned into him. So I'm like, well, he can't pick up the ball. And then kind of everybody just stands there for like a second or two. And then Alex Condon is like, shit, I'm going to leave my man, go grab the ball, and we win the game. I don't think it was a choke by Houston. I really don't. Like a lot of media personalities are saying, "Oh, Houston choked," like this and that. Like you can't blame. I don't think you can blame the kid for that. Like if you don't think you can get the shot off, then like, hey, like why don't try to throw out of it, try to pass out of it, do something like that, or throw it up, or like you said, get the offensive rebound. I just think it was a great contest. I think it was great team defense. But it's just, to me, it was just weird that like you didn't get a shot off at all. Like
that much time on the
damn
clock.
near 20 seconds and like just not a single shot. Like, and Kelvin Sampson said after the game that I guess apparently that Sharp, whenever he got the ball, was supposed to pump fake and drive to the rim to try to draw a foul or to get two. And I don't know if it was Clayton's closeout or what it was, but for whatever reason, he didn't do it. And to me, it was poetic because Walter Clayton really kind of didn't have his best game offensively, and he makes arguably the biggest, one of the biggest plays of the game with a good closeout. And I was shocked. I was really shocked. I was like, wow, they had 20 seconds and didn't get a single shot off.
Yeah, it's one of those things like whenever I'm rooting for a team or whenever I just see a situation like that at any level of basketball, my thing's always, and especially in this case where everyone's in the bonus here, my things always get to the rim. And it's amazing. Again, I don't think they froze up. I think it was really good defense by Florida. Houston didn't have a timeout. And, man, those last seconds of a game, any game really, the clock either feels like it's going super fast or super slow. And I'm sure in that moment it felt like an eternity when they're trying to get to the rim and they're getting, just pressured out past the 3-point line. It gets really tight in that sort of situation. So, yeah, I'm sure like their internal clock and looking at the shot clock, I'm sure they're thinking like, all right, something's going to open up here. And, nothing ever did. And you kind of just lose your train of thought, I'm sure. Because, man, you can just tell it was like a split decision thing. It happened so fast. He went to shoot. I agree. I don't think there was any sort of choke job. It's interesting that Duke throws away a game and then Houston in turn throws away a game. But man, these college games, especially in a football stadium, especially where like it just looks different in the background when you're shooting. Like you get so many of these ugly games, and we mentioned the refs on top of that. it's just such a different element. It just ends up being damn near a football game out there, but seemed like a
Yeah.
classic game nonetheless. And Brandon, you mentioned about 8 minutes ago now, you mentioned you had some nuggets about the Florida team. Well, we're going to segue from a classic game to the Denver Nuggets. Um, I'll tell you this, guys. I was on my phone earlier. I'm like, let me just go check out Twitter. Let me see what's going on in the streets today. You know what I mean? And I must have had my work focus on my phone because I didn't see any notifications. And I go to what's trending, and I see Mike Malone, and I also see what's trending in all caps. What the fuck is going on? And I'm like, that can mean anything. It's Twitter. That can mean anything. But I'm like, what? Maybe Mike Malone got fined. I certainly am not thinking he got fired. But here we go in the NBA. That's the second firing in the last 2 weeks, nearing the playoffs. Keenan and I don't think you were on the show, Brandon. Keenan and I talked about it after Taylor Jenkins got fired from the Grizzlies. And I was saying how I was definitely surprised. That was my gut reaction. But there was actually a lot of Grizzlies fans who were like, no, this needed to happen, which I still think is insane. I don't see any benefit of that going towards the end of the season. But at least there was a lot of Grizzlies fans who were like, hey, no, we were done with Taylor Jenkins. We didn't like this and that about him, his rotations, blah, blah, blah. Mike Malone is one of the best coaches in the league, bar none. They're heading towards the playoffs. I believe they're a 4 seed right now. They could easily end up with a 2 seed if things go the right way. Granted, they blew that game the other night with Westbrook missing the layup and such. That'll definitely factor into the seeding. But for them to not only fire Mike Malone, but fire Calvin Booth, who I don't think has done the best job since they've won the ring. Honestly, I don't think he's been a good GM at all. Brandon, you actually mentioned in the pre-show that you heard maybe that it was strife between the coach and the front office, which that actually happened with Mike Malone in Sacramento. He was actually pretty successful for what the Kings are. He was actually pretty successful with them and got into a strife with the front office, and they fired him. Boom. Okay, he ends up with Denver. He's been there for 10 seasons, wins them a ring. He's the winningest coach in franchise history, and successful season so far. Maybe not the best, but again, I think this is a team that's like 7, at the most 8 deep, but maybe 6.5, 7 deep, and I think he's doing well with it. But what I don't understand is,
Yeah.
okay, you let Michael Malone go. The front office fires Michael Malone. 5 games left. That seems idiotic, to say the least. But what are you doing then firing Calvin Booth? You're making wholesale changes with, again, someone who's the best player on earth right now, Nikola Jokic, right? Regardless if you think you have as good of a chance as you did 2 years ago when you won the ring, you still have a chance with Nikola Jokic and a healthy Jamal Murray. I wish I had more to say because, there's just not many details on what the hell went on today. All I can say is I'm shocked. I feel terrible for the people of Denver and the Denver Nuggets fans. I talked to my man Aaron Medley, who lives in Denver, and he said the city's just devastated today. How could you not be? I mean, this is literally in NFL terms. This would be like someone. This would be like Nick Sirianni last year getting fired a game before the season. What's the point? I don't understand it. What was your guys' reaction to it when you heard the news, saw the news, etc.?
I got a notification on, I think it was Underdog. It's like breaking news, Mike Malone fired, and I looked at my phone and I'm like, what? Like what? Like that just kind of super random. And I'm like, I had to make sure that it was Mike Malone. I'm like, all right, there's got to be another Mike Malone out there that's coaching somewhere else. I get on Twitter and I see that, and I'm like, what the hell? And then I see that Calvin Booth isn't being retained. And the first thing I think is why? Like, yeah, Denver's 47-32 right now. They're the 4th seed in the West. I understand they're on a little bit of a losing skid. I think you can chalk a lot of that up to Jamal Murray being hurt and not being in the lineup. It was just confusing because, like you said, Kyle, the timing of it. You're damn near right here in playoff time, here in a couple games. And now you've got a guy that's going to be leading a team that has no head coaching experience at all, professional or collegiate. So it's like, okay, like what are we doing here? And so what we were talking about before we got on, I was just watching PTI today once I got home from work, and Mike Wilbon was saying that, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some disconnect between Jokic and Malone, and maybe he went to upper management. Um, that happened, I mean, I feel like something had to have happened. Like, I just don't, it would be hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that they just fired him just because they wanted a fresh start. Because, like,
Going into the
you don't do
playoffs.
that. Like, not, yeah, going into the playoffs, like if you want to fire him, wait until the off season. Like, don't do it because now your team's going to be so discombobulated. Like, if you got a guy in there that doesn't know what he's doing, then I mean, it's going to be you're going to be prone to a one and done. I mean, really, um, just like head scratching, just so head scratching. It's like what are we doing? Like, and now watch, Mike Malone's going to end up in San Antonio.
Likely.
Um, coaching Wemby, and then watch, they're going to kick the living crap out of Denver or something, and Denver's going to be like, well, damn, why did we let him go?
Tim, what were your thoughts?
It feels too crazy to be like a legit thing. Like when the Grizzlies coach got fired, everybody's first thought was like, why are they doing this right before the playoffs, right? An even more high profile coach gets fired even later into the season. It just tops it. It just doesn't make any sense. It makes me think that there's a conspiracy theory to like take out all the teams that could potentially knock out the Lakers from this year's finals. And I'm on board with it at this point. We got Luka to the Lakers, and now we're just eliminating the opponents. Let's get Lakers, Celtics in the finals. Let's get a big comeback from viewership. That's the only thing that makes sense here because it really doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense that we haven't got any information on what the hell happened to make this happen because they are the 4 seed. They are going to be a great playoff team that could upset anybody. Like it right now with an interim head coach, they're going to be an underdog against whoever they match up against. It's going to be that's probably how the books are going to have it. So it has to be a conspiracy. There's got to be something behind it. It's Adam Silver.
So you're saying
against the world right now.
You're saying, Tim,
that's the only thing.
Adam Silver got on the line was like, "Hey, Denver Nuggets, we'll throw you personally. I guess the owner, because the GM got fired here. This is what's crazy. All right, let me get through this a little bit. Let's just say like he was on the phone and said, "Hey, Calvin Booth, even though he got fired, we'll throw you an extra 5 to 10 mil. You cut the coach, and then you have a little deposit, right? Is that what you're saying?"
He had to go right to the owner. Yeah, like that's the only way it works. But if this is true, he's got to go to all the owners. This is the third move that has not really made any sense from a GM or a coaching standpoint.
To say the least.
So, yeah, it's like the NBA, which has been struggling with viewership, is just trying to make NBA headlines. They're trying to make worldwide headlines with this, and they've done it 3 times now because every single time it's been a confusing
Nobody
storyline.
knows off-court drama quite like the NBA. I mean, they create off-court drama in the way that the NFL can create on-field drama going into the game. The NBA has owned off-court drama for, I would say, the last 15 years, probably going back to the decision, honestly, or even Kobe and Shaq back in the day.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me, I want to know if Calvin Booth, let's say there was strife between coach and front office. I really want to know if Calvin Booth fired Mike Malone and then ownership was like, what the fuck's going on here? We don't approve of this. And then fired Calvin Booth in turn. It's one thing to fire a coach. Okay, we just saw that a week and a half ago with Taylor Jenkins. That, again, like you said, that was crazy. That was already crazy enough, right? Not on the Luka scale, but crazy enough to where it's like you don't see that often. Then to follow it up with a real contender, with, again, someone who's coaching the best player in the league, and like Mike Malone's well respected. He's someone I would like. I'm not a Celtics fan anymore, but if for whatever reason there was a job opening and I was still a Celtics fan, I would absolutely want Mike Malone as their coach. He's that good of a coach. How do you let this happen? How do you let this happen? And why wholesale? Why the GM on top of it? And yeah, it's almost 11:01 as we speak, and I haven't checked my phone, but I know no more about this story than I did 12 hours ago, 8 hours ago when the news first broke.
I haven't seen anything either. Nothing on Twitter, and I've been on Twitter multiple times since then. And even like the national pundits, like just watching like Around the Horn and like shows on the they're all like, what the hell? Like this is like even they're all shocked. So it's like there's gotta be something going on there. Like something big enough to where you do like a clean sweep of the whole
5 games
house.
before the
Like
playoffs as a
especially this
contender.
late in the season.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. And you mentioned
Like
Jokic possibly going to the front office. I personally can't see that. I would be very surprised. That would go against everything we know for Jokic,
I
like
would
as
too.
he is as a player, like how low key he is, and he seems to have a really good relationship with Mike Malone. I think I even saw a video a couple weeks ago of when Nikola Jokic won one of his MVPs. Might have been his first. I can't remember, but Mike Malone and the coaching staff actually showed up in Serbia. So they really seem to have like a real close knit relationship. And who knows, maybe there is some truth to Jokic going to the front office, but I really can't wrap my head around like wholesale change. Like what benefit? And I said this about the Grizzlies. What benefit do you get firing your coach this close to the playoffs? And the Nuggets certainly have a better chance.
Yeah, because you're not bringing in
Exactly.
a new one.
Exactly.
Like it's not like you're hiring Doc Rivers or
Someone
not saying,
experienced.
but like someone that's someone experienced or someone that's
Sure.
out of a job right now. It's not like you're bringing in a whole new coaching staff. Like you can't really do that. Like and then implement a whole new offensive and defense. Like that's not what we're doing here. So, like
That was one of the things that I thought about immediately. Even the Clippers and the Sixers had the decency to let Doc Rivers blow a 3-1 lead before firing him. Like, what the hell? Why can't we just do that like normal, like every other NBA franchise has
Exactly.
ever done in history? Let him prove to you that he is not the guy. Because guess what? An interim coach is not the guy. It will never work like that. So you just tanked your season, which is why it has to be Adam Silver. He's doing his best Grim Reaper impression. He's taking out the opponents. LeBron versus Tatum, Lakers in 5.
Lakers.
We got the Lakers at 5 somehow out of that. Speaking on their interim coach, that's one of the only things I read aside from this firing after it happened. I guess this guy's name is David Adelman. Uh, and I click on his name because I see him trending, and I'm scrolling through, and I couldn't believe the amount of people who were like, "No, he's actually going to be a great fit. He's going to be a good coach." And I'm like, "How the hell do you know if this assistant's good or not?" I felt the same way how I felt like this past week reading people comment on the tariffs. I'm like, "How the fuck are y'all fucking experts on the tariffs all of a sudden when y'all be saying the dumbest shit in the comments, and now all of a sudden you guys know the ins and outs on a global economy." All right, and then now everyone knows how if David Adelman's going to be a good coach or not. So, um,
Like, oh yeah, I know him personally. Excellent guy. Like a great X's and
I
O's
literally
guy.
saw
Like,
someone
get
say
the
today, they're
fuck out of
like,
here.
"Yeah, I hate to see Mike Malone go, but David Adelman's solid though." I'm like, "How the fuck do you know?" And you just said he didn't even coach in college or the pros yet. Obviously, in the pros as a head coach. Clearly, I didn't even know he was the lead assistant. So, I mean, who knows? It could work out. I mean, we saw with Joe Mazzulla, who didn't have much coaching experience at all, and it really did work out for him. And he was thrown into the fire. I want to say it was like what 3 days before the preseason started for the Celtics, and that was a whole unique situation
I
with
think
Ime
so. Yeah.
Udoka. And that's honestly where my mind first went with Taylor Jenkins and Mike Malone today. Like, okay, if it's this sudden, something must have happened that was pretty serious, right? And then when you get the GM on top of that, it's even more chaos. It's even more disarray. You just don't know what the hell's going on. Um, I don't understand it. I'm still dumbfounded. And I thought by now I would know much more, and I don't. All I know is this David Edelman guy is going to be coaching the Denver Nuggets. It's going to be a shit show. More the merrier as far as drama for us. I mean, the playoffs are already going to be wide open. Now it just seems like you're handicapping the Nuggets. Like Tim said, I mean, this is only making it easier for a team like the Lakers, who do have holes. They could probably get deep in the playoffs. I don't think they're a great defensive team, but man, if you were going to run into Denver, it only makes it that much easier in theory. So, yeah, I'm still shocked. I'm disappointed, but at the same time, like I said, this drama's kind of amazing going into the postseason. Uh, Fellas, any other topics on your mind before we get out of here? No
Nothing
NFL, no
really that I
NBA.
can think
We got Luke. Speaking of Luca, homecoming tomorrow. I know we made our predictions.
The return.
Did he?
Just got ejected.
Wanted some extra
Guess
rest for
so.
tomorrow.
Yeah, clock out early.
All right, just going for 45 now.
Mike,
I'm up in my
Tim,
prediction.
you said 42, 8, and 8. And then you're upping it to 45 from, what'd you have it before, 40?
It was either 34 or 36,
Okay.
I think. I think I had them at like 36, 11, and 8 or something like that. So I'm going to go 45, 11,
And I've got a
8
double
now.
nickel and some sort of violence aimed at the direction of Nico Harrison tomorrow. I'm not wishing it, but I mean, that's just part of my prediction. I mean, what do you want me to do?
Nico will
Sacrifice
not.
at home
He will not be walking out of the stadium after this game. They will be wheeling him
Via
out.
stretcher.
Multiple pieces, probably. Yeah.
He has to be airlifted out. Like, they just don't trust him getting out, so they airlift him out of the stadium. Airlift him up to the to one of the, what do you call it? The suites. Airlift him up to one of the suites. Yeah, the rafters. The rafters. They keep him up in the rafters till the end of the game. Keep him safe.
Raptors.
Oh man.
They're going to make him an example out of him. They're going to put him up in the rafters, and they're never going to let him down.
Kyle wants some Nico Harrison.
I don't necessarily want it. I just think I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, yeah, you know, some drama wouldn't be bad. But man, I'm still dumbfounded by that trade as well. But listen, this was a lot of fun, fellas. We covered some ground here between Florida and the Denver Nuggets. Hopefully, I'll be talking to you guys tomorrow. I think you guys will be meeting after the Mavericks-Lakers game. I'm going to hope to buzz in. And if not, I will see you guys very soon. This was the Warner Brothers podcast. Catch us on TikTok. Catch us on YouTube. Catch us on Instagram. We will be back very soon. Peace.